Hi, I'm Doug Donley from Cecil TV. It's the 3rd of March, Friday, and today we're going to catch up with Matt Hubbard from the Cecil Whig to see what are the stories that are big this week and what he's working on, what's coming up. So, hi, Matt. How you doing?
Pretty good, Doug. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So, you reported this week on a complicated zoning situation that definitely has a sort of human interest side. The At the last council meeting, they heard testimony from planning and zoning, from a landowner and some of his tenants and neighbors, and it regards a piece of land, as so many stories these days have to do with a piece of land. Um,
Yeah.
the This man has owned this property in the Cherry Hill area for 31 years, I think, and
Yeah.
uh, he bought it from his parents. It has currently has uh, a a tidy little 4-unit apartment on it that
Hmm.
has now become the focus of all of this whole issue. So why don't you pick it up from there? Particularly, the council is due to vote on this, and
Yeah.
maybe you could, I guess, explain for starters what exactly are they going to be voting on?
Yeah, absolutely. So the 9 acres of land that are in question here, the owner has it's a 4-unit apartment complex. It's a really small building, but he has 4 people, 5 people actually living in there. Well, he went to sell the land, and the person that he was selling it to went to the planning and zoning to see, the permits for the land. And then that kind of put it on their radar that this apartment complex isn't really supposed to be there. So they went to council. The argument is that the guy's trying to get a rezoning, and in doing a rezoning, he's trying to prove that there was a mistake in the 2011 comprehensive rezoning plan. His argument for the mistake is that the permits for the building are lost. The arguments from the Planning and Zoning Commission, as well as Land Use Development Services, is that they're not lost. There was never just a permit to build that building on the land. So he wants it to get rezoned from subterranean ST to RM, which is residential multifamily. The concerns from the public are that if it gets rezoned, that means any developer in the future can go in and just build houses there, right? Or multifamily apartment units, whatever. But he is compromising to put a deed restriction on the land so that it can't happen. But what people don't understand is that with the current zoning of ST, he can put 30 to 40 single family homes in there right now if he wanted to, right? But as a realtor, he explained that, you look for the best value in your land, right? I evaluated the option with the 30 to 40 single family homes in the apartment complex. The apartment complex works just fine. I don't need to put the 30 to 40 homes, right? But now if he's forced to take down 30 to 40 the apartment complex, the potential for him to put those 30 to 40 homes grows, right? And anybody that knows that area knows that there's no neighborhoods in that area. It's all just houses on big open plots of land. And so people, rightfully so, are a little concerned with this. And if the council votes to not give him his rezoning to keep the multifamily residentials, the land might be sold, it might be developed upon. There's a lot that could happen.
Right, and the neighbors who testified uh,
Mhm.
are perfectly fine with everything just as it is.
Absolutely.
What they don't want is another neighborhood of 30 houses,
Yeah.
which seems to be a growing sentiment around the county. Um,
Yeah.
all right, so I guess, all right, if the council votes no, meaning
Mm-hmm.
they will not rezone it,
Mm.
then the what happens then?
So if they don't rezone the land, then he will be forced to take down the apartment complex, right? Something that I did leave out on accident was that even if they rezone the land, the Planning and Zoning Commission and Land Use said that he still might not be able to keep the apartment complex because they do not have any building permits, nothing on file that these buildings were to ever exist, right? It's just one building, but they don't have any building permits or anything. So even if he does get rezoned, there is a strong possibility that he could not, they could still say you have to take down the apartment complex, right? But what's going on here is it's a classic, you have the law and you have what the citizens want and need, right? A big thing in this county is keeping it rural, right? This is a relatively low key, not a super, overdeveloped area. So the argument of we want a rural county comes into play. It's a quiet area. Granted, it's between two major roadways, but quiet as quiet it can be these days. And it's open fields. People don't want houses in open fields. And so if he's forced to take down the apartment complex, the possibility of that open field turning into 30 to 40 houses grows.
Right. Yeah. It's hard to quantify aesthetics, but it sounds like they had better figure out how, because more looking at the Northeast, the big Northeast controversy, a lot of it, the thing may be this 722 houses or units may be legal, but surely nobody who lives around there wants them.
Well, yeah, and the biggest thing too is they're talking about precedent. They want to, the county doesn't want to rezone this land because then it paves the way for everybody in the area to maybe want their land rezoned, right? But this guy isn't asking for the rezoning, just set it and leave it. He's talking, I'll put a deed restriction on the land to where if I get this rezoning, myself and anybody that buys this land in the future will not be able to build what this land is approved to have, right? Which I think is a relatively decent, I wouldn't say compromise. I think it's a relatively decent precedent. You can get a rezoning in that area, but here's what people in the past have done, right? A lot of it makes sense, Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily want to be in the council's shoes voting on this, because somebody's going to be very unhappy. All right, moving on. Budgets, school budget, county budget. What's the next chapter in the county budget story?
Oh, yeah, it's public hearings. That is the next thing. March 1st, the Cecil County Public School budget was introduced, submitted, right? And that passed the Board of Education, and they were able to add 64 new positions, which increased the budget a decent amount, about by $5 million. And so they want 64 new positions because that will alleviate class sizes. That tackles the problem, said and done. But it also draws a bigger buffer between, if maintenance of effort is 89 million, they have a higher potential of being short because 89 million or even 91 million might put them behind a tiny bit. So that's definitely a concern voiced by a lot of the board members, but they said they do not feel comfortable approving a budget that doesn't meet the school's needs, right? So from here, it's going to be public hearings. So the council's public hearing, that's in April. And so we got a little bit of ways to go.
So those positions, they are mostly teachers. Are there any of these psychological counselors or that have often been mentioned as being needed, and those sorts of people?
Yeah, so it's 8 elementary school teachers, 6 middle school teachers, 15 special education teachers, 1 English learners teacher, 17 regular education paraprofessionals, 12 special education paraprofessionals, and 5 English learning paraprofessionals. So it's a good bit. And yeah, as you said, it's all teachers and teaching assistants.
Right. Okay. So what else? There's a presentation coming up on Tuesday for the budget, this coming year's budget. Any
Yeah, so
surprises?
it's the annual comprehensive report, the ACR report, that is being broken down in front of the council. I was told next week. So that's going to be something to weigh in on. It's going to be important to know, how the FY 2022 budget was spent, how the money was spent last year, all of that. Very important stuff.
Okay. And is that budget available online?
Yeah, the ACR report, it's under the finance page on CC Gov, and then it's, literally says annual financial report 2022.
22, 23, or 24?
They say, I'm pretty sure it says 22, because that threw me off a good bit. I was telling people I couldn't find it because I've been so wrapped up in covering budget to where
Right.
FY 2024 was like the big number.
I was recently looking, and the latest I saw was 22, so I figured that's not what we're looking for. All right, so I don't know. People can go in there, poke around, see what they find. Okay, well, I think that kind of wraps it for this week, and we'll I guess we'll see you next week and see what's going on.
Absolutely.
We'll have had this was a dark week for county government, and no meetings, and next week there'll be more. Okay, thanks, Matt.
Absolutely, I hope so. Yep, thanks.
Great.
Oh, cool.